Delegates, I'm going to make a judgment here. I think you wanted, Scotland wanted, Nobel laureate winning advice. I think you wanted Scottish Water to stay in public hands. I think you wanted the National Health Service to be protected. I think you thought the low-paid should be paid a living wage. I think you wanted the ill to have free prescriptions. I think you want to live in communities where people feel safe from crime. We can protect the front line, and we can act to protect these most precious parts of our society, but we cannot do all that we would wish. At the opening of the Parliament this time round, I said that the first stage of devolution was over. No one has really challenged that since. Everyone knows the money has run out. People are beginning to see the Parliament's powers as they are have run their course. There is no point in being a pocket money Parliament when the pocket money stops. Now is the time for new economic growth and new powers. We now know, thanks to the work of Andrew Hughes-Hallett and Drew Scott, that with economic powers we could grow the Scottish economy by an extra 1% a year. That doesn't sound a lot, but year on year it would replace the extra revenue coming in with about half of the cuts that are coming from Westminster. What it shows is that we are not helpless agents of globalisation, but free citizens of a wealthy land. We are not slaves to the banking system or vassals to the lords of high finance. And nor are we the tartan clichés of media myth or the historical poetry of yesterday. We are the prose of today, the facts of here and now, the truth of Scotland. And when we look to our neighbours, we can all see the family who can't quite make ends meet, the child who needs some extra help, the grandmother alone who needs a hand, the mother struggling with her hands full, the man at the end of his tether. For we're all the people who choose to live in this land, and by our shared values, we are the welfare of everyone in our community. We must never make the mistake of confusing having a national parliament with having a national purpose. See, I stand before you not saying that independence is everything, but saying that to protect our values is absolutely all, and to do this within ourselves is all. And that is why having the powers is all. And perhaps when we've spoken of independence, we've assumed that everyone else knew exactly what we meant. Well, should there be any doubt, what I mean by independence is the profound right to enjoy the same equality of opportunity, to live in more equal communities. What I mean by independence is jobs, to protect them, to create them. Is this a grand dream? Yeah. But that's the difference between us and the other parties at this coming election. We have a vision and we have the means to deliver it. For be assured, I don't want independence for its own sake, but for the sake of the people here and now and those to come. I won't be a manager of Westminster-directed cuts, nor part of a parliament acting as a message boy for decisions made elsewhere. I want to see a better nation. I want it to stack together in common purpose to deliver that better land. I want you and everyone here in Perth, in this land, to know that having a parliament in itself ain't enough. We need a purpose, and it's my purpose to get the powers to address our problems. I believe our people want a better society, not a bit better, not a wee change, not some tinkering around the edges, but a better land, full stop. And perhaps from now on, from this day on, I should explain it thus. The referendum we wish to have is first and foremost a jobs referendum. The referendum and the independence I seek is the independence to create jobs. The powers I wish for all of us are the powers to protect us all. This is not an arcane question removed from the people. It's the people, you and me, and how to protect our society, how to grow our economy. That's what I mean by independence. I fight not for flags and anthems, but for fairness and compassion. I fight for a generation that's not burdened by the mistakes of this generation. And as you know, I fight and I don't give up. I fight for this party because I believe in our hearts we have nothing but goodness. And I fight for this nation because I believe the people of Scotland will choose a better way, a better society, a fairer society as their way. And I fight in the knowledge that this is a big fight. The cuts will be bad, the pain will be great, and a fight because I know how we should act. I know where we are going. I am the First Minister of Scotland. I intend to continue to be the First Minister of Scotland. And I do it not because I've got all the answers, but because I have the absolute commitment, the experience, and above all, that sense of national purpose. We have the purpose to make this a better land. Join us. Be part of this. Be part of better.
Delegates on their feet there applauding the SNP leader Alex Salmond as he finished his speech there. A very wide-ranging speech finishing on independence there. That was one of the main issues. Well, I'm joined in the studio again by Hamish MacDonald, our political commentator. Hamish, a barnstorming speech that got the delegates clapping there, or do you think he fell short of the mark?
Well, I think he came on to his game later in the speech. I mean, I think that I've seen a lot of Alex Salmond speeches, and he wasn't as buoyant, he wasn't as bouncy as he had been in the past. He was subdued for, I would say, most of it. But he was focused, very, very focused on the cuts, very, very focused on independence. And by the end, by the time he got to explaining what independence means for him, I think that he'd actually got to the kind of Alex Salmond that the party expects.
Well, we're just seeing some of the cabinet there applauding him. Do you think that really was one of the main key themes, really, this push for independence, do you think, just right at the end of the speech? Yes,
it is. I mean, I think that he set out the fault line there as he sees it for the 2011 elections. He says independence is it is everything. It's almost like, all or nothing for them. They have to make independence the key theme of the election because that's what they're about. That's what really sets them apart from the unionist parties. And Alex Salmond, this is the first time I've really heard him explain in this sort of detail what independence means for him. I mean, he's talking about independence being about jobs. And he says he's not someone who really goes for flags and anthems. This is a whole different way of selling independence given the current climate.
And the current climate, really, he was weaving in the cuts agenda into the argument for independence, wasn't he?
Yes, very much so. I mean, he was very, very clear about what he feels the government should be doing. Too fast, too far was the cry again about the government's cuts. He's saying that the Scottish Government will set out what it wants to do. It wants to have free prescriptions. That was stressed again. It's going to have a council tax freeze. That was stressed again. And then it comes back to this main point about independence and saying, if we had independence, we would be able to do far much more in terms of creating jobs and creating prosperity than we can at the moment.